The goddess Ishtar, a prominent figure in ancient Mesopotamian mythology, was indeed adopted by different cultures under different names and associations. The Greeks identified Ishtar with their own goddess Aphrodite and referred to her as Venus, while the Egyptians associated her with the goddess Isis. Ishtar was a powerful goddess in Mesopotamian mythology, associated with love, beauty, fertility, and war. When the Greeks encountered the worship of Ishtar during their interactions with the Near East, they found similarities between Ishtar and their own goddess of love and beauty, Aphrodite. The attributes and aspects of Ishtar were thus assimilated into the Greek pantheon, and she came to be known as the morning star, Venus, derived from the Roman counterpart of Aphrodite. Ishtar's associations with love, desire, and femininity were reflected in the characterization of Venus as the goddess of love and beauty in Roman and Greek mythology. The Egyptians encountered the worship of Ishtar during their interactions with Mesopotamia and recognized the same parallels between Ishtar and Isis. Both the goddesses are associated with feminine powers, fertility, and the protection of their pantheons. The Egyptians, known for incorporating deities from various cultures into their religious beliefs, assimilated Ishtar's characteristics and worship into their own existing pantheon, identifying her with the goddess Isis. The merging of Ishtar and Isis led to shared attributes and associations regarding fertility, motherhood, and magic. These cross-cultural associations and adoptions of deities often occurred through cultural exchanges, trade, conquest, and cultural diffusion. Different ancient civilizations would encounter and incorporate elements of other mythologies into their own religious beliefs, finding commonalities or aligning existing deities, synchronizing with foreign ones to bridge the gap between cultures and create religious continuity. Isis, the goddess of magic, fertility, and motherhood. Her story revolves around her husband Osiris, who was murdered by his brother Set out of jealousy. Isis embarks on a quest to find the scattered body parts of Osiris and reassembles them, using her own magical powers to revive him temporarily. Through her love, devotion, and magical prowess, Isis is able to conceive a child with Osiris named Horus, who goes on to avenge his father's death and become a prominent deity himself. Isis is revered for her role in preserving the life and lineage of Osiris and ensuring his resurrection in the afterlife. In Mesopotamian mythology, the story of Ishtar and her husband Tammuz reflects a cycle of life, death, and rebirth. Like Osiris, Tammuz dies and descends into the underworld, causing Ishtar to mourn his loss and descend into the realm of the dead to rescue him. During her journey, the earth becomes barren and lifeless. Eventually, Ishtar negotiates with the gods of the underworld and successfully brings Tammuz back to life, restoring fertility and vitality to the world. This myth symbolizes the changing seasons and cyclical nature of life and death. Both Isis and Ishtar are associated with saving their husbands from death. Isis actively seeks to resurrect Osiris and ensures the continuation of his legacy through their son Horus. Ishtar's descent into the underworld saves Tammuz, which represents the restoration of life and fertility in the natural world and springtime. Demeter, the grain goddess central to the Eleusinian mysteries, along with Dionysus, is also associated with fertility, agriculture, and the cycles of nature. Like Ishtar and Dumuzi, Demeter is primarily known for her role in ensuring the fertility of the earth, the growth of the crops, and the abundance of the harvest. Ishtar is also associated with the fertility of the land and considered a patroness of agriculture. Both goddesses have associations with motherhood. Demeter is the mother of Persephone, and her grief over Persephone's abduction by Hades is central to the myth of the changing seasons. Ishtar is also associated with motherhood and has been depicted as a nurturing and protective figure. Life, death, and rebirth. Demeter and Ishtar are both connected to the cycles of life, death, and rebirth. Demeter's grief over the loss of her daughter Persephone leads to the barrenness of the earth in the winter, symbolizing the dormant period of plant life. Ishtar's descent into the underworld to rescue her husband Tammuz is the story of planting the seeds into the ground that come up as new life. The story of death and rebirth. The old plant that's dying gives up its seeds into the ground. The seeds go into the underworld and rise up again, representing the cyclical nature of life and the changing seasons. These similarities may reflect broader patterns and themes found in ancient mythologies, where different cultures sought to explain and celebrate the natural world for its cycles through the respective deities. The connections between Demeter and Ishtar may arise from these shared mythological motifs, rather than from direct cultural or historical influence. A recent discovery shows a direct connection between Ishtar and the goddess Venus. In June of 2014, ISIS captured Mosul and ceded its influence across the surrounding area and set out to systematically destroy the archaeological site of the Temple of Ishtar at Nimrud, demolishing the ruins with sledgehammers, bombs, and diggers. Thankfully, though, archaeologists have recently been able to return to this site at Nimrud. Early this year, archaeologists continued work on the Temple of Ishtar, which burned when Nimrud was sacked by an invading army in 612 BCE. Chief among their finds was a fragment of large stone monument that depicts the goddess Ishtar inside an 8-pointed star symbol. Dr. Michael Dante says, "Our greatest find this season was a spectacular fragment from the stone stele that shows the goddess Ishtar inside a star symbol. This is the first unequivocal depiction of the goddess Ishtar Sharat Nefi, a divine aspect of the goddess associated with the rising of the planet Venus, the morning star, to be found in this temple dedicated to her." Dr. Michael Dante, Program Director of the Iraq Heritage Stabilization Program, an archaeologist at the University of Pennsylvania. The goddess Ishtar and Aphrodite are both represented by this exact 8-pointed star, which is called Lucifer, which shows how influential this goddess is among the ancient world. This is a symbol practically universal across the entire ancient world,